The morning of April 14th was a good one for the Lincolns. The war was over, so there was a celebratory mood everywhere. But for them, it was particularly good because Robert was back from Appomattox, where he'd been serving on Grant's junior staff, a position Lincoln had gotten him to keep him out of the fighting. As a joke, he brought his dad back a picture of Lee, which he thought would be funny, but Lincoln, of course, took it seriously and looked at it and apparently said, "It is a good face. I'm glad the war is over." So there was really a feeling of warmth and relief that the war was over. Mary, of course, was excited to have her son back, and she wanted to go to the theater. She wanted to take the Grants to the theater. They already had tickets to see Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp at Grover's Theater and had written to say that they would be going with Tad. But our American cousin at Ford's perhaps seemed like a more appropriate choice. Perhaps she thought the Grants would like it better, or perhaps she wanted to see it and thought she would enjoy the evening more if the Grants joined them at Ford's Theater. So, of course, Mary got her way because she's Mary Todd Lincoln.
Lincoln kept a stack of letters in a cubbyhole in his desk, the so-called Assassination File. Letters of death threats that he received while in office. Mary came across them one day and was absolutely horrified to discover them. But the president himself had a fatalistic view of his own existence. He said, if someone wants to kill me, they'll be able to.
New York, January 4th, 1864, Abraham Lincoln, President. The same who warned you of a conspiracy, November 1862, is now compelled to inform you that your days are numbered. You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. You shall be a dead man in 6 months. Thus saith the good spirit. Joseph.
He considered the possibilities of danger remote and positively refused to torment himself with precautions for his own safety, summing up the matter by saying that both friends and strangers must have daily access to him. He was greatly annoyed when it was decided that there must be a guard at the executive mansion. John Nicolay.
Mr. President, Sir, I regret that you do not appreciate what I have repeatedly said to you in regard to proper police arrangements connected with your household and your own personal safety. You are in danger. You know, or ought to know, that your life is sought after and will be taken unless you and your friends are cautious, for you have many enemies within our lines. You certainly know I am always ready to perform any duty that will properly to conduce to your interest or your safety. Your obedient servant, Ward Layman.
Father felt better, had his arm and jaw bandaged early, sat up twice during the day. The doctors were all here at once this morning, besides coming separately during the day. The streets were in jubilee over the glorious news from Grant. All department employees had a holiday. The streets were filled with happy people, marching about with flags and bands of music. Mother and I watched them from the windows of Father's room. Besides the salutes fired by order of Mr. Stanton, some people from the Navy Yard carried about 2 howitzers, firing them. Fanny Seward.
541 was a pretty spacious, comfortable living space. The second floor had a large living room. There were 5 bedrooms, 2 small rooms up in the attic, and there was a kitchen and dining room on the first floor. Anna was kind of overseeing operations at the boarding house, and she brought in the first boarder, who was Honora Fitzpatrick, or Nora, who was a 19-year-old friend and living alone, single. The next boarder was Louis Weichman, who was an old school friend of John Surratt Jr.'s. Then there was John T. Holohan and Eliza Holohan, and their children Charles and Mary, who were friends of Mary's. And the last 2 boarders were Mary's niece, Olivia Jenkins, and a little girl named Apollonia Dean, who is 9 years old and attending a local Catholic school.
Laura Keene was a British-born actress and manager. She was born in 1826, and she came over to America soon after she started acting, and she toured with a lot of comedies here. She's very interesting. She was one of the first female theater managers. She managed a theater in Baltimore at first and was quickly driven out by her male competitors, who really didn't like the idea of a woman running a theater, but ultimately she managed what is now the Winter Garden Theater here on Broadway in New York, which is, an amazing accomplishment. So we know Our American Cousin because of her. She brought the show here, and she owned the rights to the American production. She tweaked it a little bit. Initially, it had made fun of American backwardness, but by casting an actor who was very good, E.A. Southern, in what had been a minor role, Lord Dundreary of a British fop, and then kind of letting him go to town, he made the part much bigger, and the play changed into a mockery of British aristocracy, which, of course, American audiences loved. And the play was extremely successful. It ran for a very long time. And the night of April 14th was supposedly her 1,000th performance in the role of Florence Trenchard, the ingenue. And it was supposedly her last. She was outgrowing the role in age and maybe shouldn't have been doing it anymore, and the play was a little bit past its prime. But it definitely was the last night of the show's run at Ford's Theater, and as such, it was her benefit performance, and she would get a cut of the profits from that night.